Welcome back to the Bible Breakdown channel. Today's video will be the story of Daniel in the lion's den. Have you ever felt like you were in a situation with no way out, completely surrounded by danger? It's a scary feeling, right? Well, today we're diving into one of the most incredible stories of courage and faith ever told, the story of Daniel in the lion's den. It's more than just a famous tale. It's a powerful lesson about standing firm for what you believe in, even when the whole world seems to be against you. So, grab a seat and let's journey back in time to ancient Babylon. Our story starts with Daniel, a man who was exceptional in every way. He wasn't just smart, he was wise, hardworking, and deeply devoted to his God. Originally from Judah, he had been brought to Babylon as a captive, but rose through the ranks because of his incredible integrity and skill. The current king, Darius the Mede, was so impressed with Daniel that he planned to put him in charge of the entire kingdom. Think about that, a foreigner, a captive, about to become the second most powerful man in the mighty Babylonian Empire. Now, as you can imagine, this didn't sit well with the other officials and administrators in the kingdom. They were jealous. They looked at Daniel and saw a threat to their own power and influence. They thought, who is this guy to be put above us? So, they started to scheme. They watched Daniel's every move, trying to find some fault, some mistake, some reason to accuse him and get him out of the picture. They scrutinized his work, his finances, his public life, everything. But they came up empty-handed. Daniel was flawless. He was so honest and diligent that there was absolutely nothing they could use against him regarding his job or his loyalty to the king. Frustrated, the jealous officials realized there was only one area where they might be able to trap him: his faith. They knew Daniel was completely devoted to his God. 3 times a day, every single day, without fail, Daniel would go to his room, open his windows that faced toward his homeland of Jerusalem, and pray. It was a non-negotiable part of his life. So, his enemies cooked up a devious plan. They went to King Darius with a very clever proposal. They said, "O King Darius, live forever. All the presidents, administrators, and governors have agreed that you should make a new law. For the next 30 days, anyone who prays to any god or human other than you, O king, should be thrown into the den of lions." They flattered the king, appealing to his ego. What ruler wouldn't want to be the sole object of worship, even for a short time? It sounded like a great way to unify the kingdom under his authority. The king, not suspecting their true motive, thought it was a brilliant idea. He signed the decree into law, and under Persian law, once a king's decree was signed, it could not be changed or revoked. It was set in stone. Now, Daniel heard about the new law. He knew exactly what it meant. He knew it was a trap set specifically for him. He had a choice to make. He could stop praying for 30 days. He could pray in secret, behind closed windows. He could compromise his faith just a little bit to save his own life. It would have been the easy thing to do, the sensible thing to do. But Daniel wasn't a man of compromise when it came to his God. So, what did he do? He went home, and just as he had always done, he went up to his room, opened the windows facing Jerusalem, got down on his knees and prayed, giving thanks to his God. He didn't hide. He didn't waver. He chose obedience to God over his own safety. He knew the consequences, but his faith was more important to him than his life. Of course, his enemies were watching. They caught him in the act, just as they had planned. They rushed back to the king, excited to report Daniel's crime. They reminded the king of the law he had just signed, the one that couldn't be changed. Then they dropped the bombshell. Daniel, one of the exiles from Judah, is ignoring you and your decree. He's still praying to his God 3 times a day. When King Darius heard this, his heart sank. He was deeply distressed. He realized he had been tricked, manipulated by the jealousy of his own officials. He genuinely liked and respected Daniel, and the thought of throwing him to the lions was unbearable. The Bible says the king spent the rest of the day trying to find a loophole, a way to rescue Daniel. But the law was absolute. His hands were tied. As evening fell, the conspirators came back to remind him, "Remember, O king, the law of the Medes and Persians cannot be repealed." With a heavy heart, the king had no choice but to give the order. Daniel was brought to the lion's den. As they were about to throw him in, King Darius said something remarkable to Daniel. He said, "May your God, whom you serve so continually, rescue you." Even this pagan king had seen something special in Daniel's faith. So, Daniel was cast into the den of lions. A large stone was rolled over the mouth of the den, and it was sealed with the king's own signet ring and the rings of his nobles, ensuring that no one could secretly rescue Daniel. It was a death sentence. That night, King Darius couldn't sleep. He fasted, refused any entertainment, and tossed and turned all night long, worried sick about Daniel. He was filled with guilt and regret. As soon as the sun came up at the first light of dawn, the king rushed to the lion's den. He called out in an anguished voice, "Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you serve so continually, been able to rescue you from the lions?" Imagine the silence that must have followed. The king holding his breath, fearing the worst. And then a voice from inside the den. It was Daniel. He called out, "O king, live forever. My God sent his angel, and he shut the mouths of the lions. They have not hurt me, because I was found innocent in his sight. Nor have I ever done any wrong before you, O king." The king was overjoyed. He immediately ordered that Daniel be lifted out of the den. When they brought him out, they examined him and found that there wasn't a single scratch on him, not one. He was completely unharmed because he had trusted in his God. But the story doesn't end there. King Darius was furious with the men who had maliciously accused Daniel. He ordered that they, along with their entire families, be thrown into the very same lion's den. And the Bible tells us that before they even reached the floor of the den, the lions overpowered them. It's a grim ending for them, but it shows the swift and decisive justice of the situation. After this incredible event, King Darius sent out a new decree to every part of his kingdom. This time, the decree wasn't about him, but about Daniel's God. He wrote, "I issue a decree that in every part of my kingdom people must fear and reverence the God of Daniel. For he is the living God and he endures forever. His kingdom will not be destroyed, his dominion will never end. He rescues and he saves. He performs signs and wonders in the heavens and on the earth. He has rescued Daniel from the power of the lions." Through Daniel's unwavering faith, an entire empire was pointed toward the one true God. And Daniel continued to prosper throughout the reign of King Darius and even into the reign of Cyrus the Persian. So, what can we take away from this amazing story? First, it's a story about integrity. Daniel's enemies couldn't find any fault in him because he lived a life of honesty and excellence. That's a challenge for all of us to live in such a way that our character speaks for itself. Second, it's about courage in the face of pressure. Daniel refused to compromise his core beliefs. Even when his life was on the line, it's easy to stand for something when it's popular. But true character is revealed when we stand for what's right even when we stand alone. And finally, and most importantly, it's a story about the power of faith. Daniel trusted God completely. He didn't know for sure that God would save him from the lions. But he knew that God was worthy of his trust, no matter the outcome. His faith wasn't in the deliverance, but in the deliverer. And God honored that faith in a miraculous way. The story of Daniel reminds us that even when we feel like we're in our own lion's den, facing impossible situations, surrounded by fear, or being pressured to compromise, we are not alone. It encourages us to stand firm, to live with integrity, and to place our trust in a God who is more than able to shut the mouths of lions. Thanks so much for watching today. I hope this story inspired you as much as it inspires me. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more stories of faith and courage. Let me know in the comments what lesson from Daniel's story stands out most to you. Until next time, stay strong and keep the faith.